So being the bad cold start as when we worked at Boomi together, Rick Nucci labeled me as KG instead of Kimberly, and KG is now stuck with me all the way through my current job at Energage. So at Energage, it's either KG or Kimberly.
Interesting. So
I like
Mostly KG.
how was it working for the less good product leader? The guy who took over was way, way better. Also,
Oh
striking
my
similarity between the two.
Oh my gosh, yes, you do look alike. But I don't have any experience working with you really, Steve, except for a few hours. So I can't make
Yeah,
that judgment call right now.
I'm the
that's
only
true.
person that can. I have
Yeah.
experience. So Steve, you probably don't want to hear that answer,
And
but
so it's your opinion, Chris.
both equally awesome. How about that?
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
the
So
diplomat.
did so did Rick Nucci follow your style or did you follow Rick Nucci's style,
I
Steve?
like to think he followed my style. I think I, really set the trend there. Actually, I think technically I would have followed his style, but we have had some pictures together to kind of just reassert that we are basically clones of each other. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, Kimberly, um, really, really, really appreciate you taking some time to join us on our Not a Podcast Success Talks today. And by the way, you're lucky that Kimberly or KG is what stuck. At one point, I was one of 22 Chris's at Boomi.
Oh,
So I was forever known as Port because everybody that had a Chris first name just got to be known by their last names. So,
yeah.
um,
Port's good though. Port
yeah,
wine, port
yeah,
cheese,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Heading into port. It's all good.
Yeah.
yeah.
I need some
Um,
support. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
yeah.
Well, good deal. Well, we always like to start with just tell us a little bit about yourself, not about career and work and all the stuff that entails, because we'll get into that, but just a little bit about you. Like, who are you? How'd you get here? We'd just love to hear a little bit about that.
Would be remiss if I didn't say that I am the granddaughter of Eugene Fiorino. Eugene came over here from Italy in 1921 on a boat. He was in the hull of the boat. And he came over here with big dreams of, making it big in the United States. And sadly, my grandfather never went back to Italy because he believed that the streets of the United States were paved in gold. And when he got here and they weren't paved in gold, he was too embarrassed to go back to Italy. But Grandpop was amazing. Landed at Ellis Island, went to Kansas City, and then he came to Philadelphia and opened up his own cobbler shop where he worked until he was 93. And from him, I learned integrity, hard work, kindness, giving back. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't say that that's a lot of who I am, is Eugene Fiorino. Never really did learn English, so conversations were always fascinating. But I have to say that's where I really came from is him. And everything else is out there on my LinkedIn. Went to college for comp sci and math. I can't believe I actually made it through that. Learned about operating systems and what would you call artificial intelligence back in the early 80s, which is completely different than today. The worst course I ever took was automata theory. I couldn't tell you what it was, but I did pass, and that got me my computer science degree. And from there, all about me is, I work hard, I play hard. I love my kids, my family. Nothing's better than ending the Friday with martinis, pizza, and wings with the family. It's any Friday at 5:30. I'm having a martini in my hand and the pizza's on its way. So had a great
Nice.
weekend this past weekend. Went to a Winetoberfest, so I do love wine as well. Bought myself a dandelion wine. I'll tell you how that goes. But yeah, it's a little bit about me. I love playing cornhole. I love going to the Outer Banks. If you've never been there, it's a beautiful place to be for as long as it lasts. Yeah, I'm pretty
So,
relaxed when I'm not at work.
so you're kind of a proper nerd then. I like this. This is news.
That's a secret, Steve. So it should probably stay between the three of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. 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 Yeah.
I like this though. Yeah. If you'd
Yeah.
have said Negronis, I think Steve would have quietly called you afterwards and said he wanted to replace me with you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you would
Definitely.
fit in very well at Noted. So that's awesome.
Yeah, Negronis are good too, but I am a martini and red wine person.
Well, look, I've known you. Gosh, I was thinking, I was like, it's been 15 years basically. This November, when we first met at Boomi, you were one of the
November 10th.
OGs. And to me, that was pioneering days, if you will, of success. But even before we get into success, I'd love just to hear a little bit from you about how you've thought about your career, growing into leadership, becoming a chief customer officer, just in your journey.
Well, not to ruin Steve's impression of me. Steve, I was promoted into management because I was a terrible programmer. So I was promoted to management pretty early. Um, and the best thing I think about my career is two things. One, I worked at a company called SCT, and they had me run an entire P&L within SCT. And I learned so much from marketing to sales to development to support to implementation while managing that P&L. That was such a huge experience in growing my career. And when I was there, I met Bob Mao, and Bob Mao recruited me over to Boomi. And that to me was the next evolution of my career because when I joined Boomi, again, there was 25 of us hitting the ground with this integration as a service. And there's this thing called customer success, right? So subscriptions are perishable. Like, what do we do to make sure that we don't have to work through another customer sale? And so customer success was a big thing when we started digging into it. And at Boomi, I had the brilliant team around me that we started really tracking the data early. And because we started tracking the data early and the right data early, we were able to build out an at-risk customer model, right? So we were able to get that into place, and that really drove like our retention rates up based on putting those indicators in place. So booming was a big deal for me. Learned a lot in the customer success field, but I would say what was more important than learning about customer success was learning how data is not just a dashboard, but becomes your CS operating system. And I think that's where my career really changed.
Actually, did you feel like, I suppose at that time, success was still fairly like emerging as a discipline, so you were kind of probably having to feel your way in terms of what exactly a success function even is
Meant.
supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, Steve, what's so funny is Nick Mehta, right? Such a, icon in the customer success industry. And I met him early at Boomi when Gainsight was called Jabara. And I met him and Dan Steinman, and the conversations there were just early conversations about how do you get customers to stay with you and grow with you. And that I think also helped me to grow my customer success career.
I've not met Nick. I hear a lot about Nick, but he's definitely a sort of force of will, if you like.
He has a
He
force
recently
of will.
stepped down at
Yeah.
Gainsight, but a lot of success people talk about interactions with him
Yes.
and
Yes.
helping forge his path.
But it was so early back then. I think we were all trying to figure it out, right? And I felt like I really benefited from, again, we got our data in early, we tracked that data, and we're able to see like initial patterns for why customers stay and left. And I think that really catapulted Boomy's success function, as well as really had me start thinking about how data is really going to drive customer success and client services in general.
And you don't talk about it much, but you are a patent holder, correct?
I am a patent holder. So when I worked at Boomi, me and my fellow inventors, Ed Mikowski and Matt Molyneux, created a patented business process around identifying at-risk customers. We put that into place and made it an automated engine. So as you identified an at-risk customer, a case would pop up for your customer success team to react to. Again, a little bit more reactive than I think where we're heading now in the future. But I thought back then we were pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah, that is very cool. Yeah, all right.
It
Do you
was
have any
totally
patent
cutting
support?
edge.
I'm
What's that?
actually not. Do you have any patent support? I'm not.
Pending in my head, but
Pending in your head.
many great ideas. But
I'm just gonna say, Kimberly, we both share that in common. I love wine, patents, being nerds. So this is great. I love this.
It's
And
all good.
meanwhile,
Yeah.
I'm working. I'm working hard.
yeah, yeah.
We
No,
work
I mean, in
hard,
all
we just work
sincerity,
more efficiently.
okay, fair. Uh, but we use that, because I had the benefit of, following in Kimberly's footsteps, and it ultimately taking over post sales, and that still, I have no idea today, but it was, very much in use. And we were even a little bit over our skis, but always trying to get a certain CEO to sell it as early AI to show the world how we were using, data to really drive the business. But uh, very cool.
That's
Well,
right. We called it predictive assistance,
yes,
Chris,
yes,
right? Okay.
yes.
We
Um,
but we tried hard to get to our lovable CEO to actually say, come on, it's basically AI. But he said, well, technically, it's not by the computer science
like,
definition. We're like,
can
oh,
we please? And this would have been super cutting edge,
yeah.
like
Well,
in
wait a minute. So
17,
Steve,
18.
I have to almost agree with that person, right? Because to me, AI is about get the right data in place and then have it start identifying patterns for you. I think what we did back then was we identified the pattern and created the automation. So I have this argument in my head all the time. Like, is it AI or is it really like automation based on like data that we see as predictive? I hope I made sense.
But this is why the three of us are not marketers. So I would say that, from a marketing perspective, it was 100% AI. Let's just go talk about it as if
Okay, so sorry. Edit
let's
all that.
will it into existence as AI.
Yeah,
And this
edit
was
all that.
this was circa 17, 18, 19. So it could have easily passed as AI back then.
It's
Um,
amazing.
but yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Um,
Yep.
well, and I know you're now kind of, I don't know, in the throes, if it's maybe more kind of on the backside, but would love to hear about your experience now, success, and then an acquisition that your company has done,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
kind of how you've thought through that, lived through that, how you think about customers, because ultimately you acquire a company and then effectively acquire their customers. And I think that's always a very, very delicate, we look at it internally as always have. I love M&A, but then customers don't always necessarily share that same perspective. So would love to hear your experience now, having now you've been on both sides, but
Yeah.
kind of having been on both sides of that.
Yeah. Chris, let me start with joining Energage because when I was with Boomi, we were working with large enterprise customers. And when I joined Energage, I tried to apply the modeling that we used at Boomi to Energage, and it wouldn't work, and I couldn't understand why. Until it dawned on me that Energage has a very high transactional model. So a lot of our customers will be smaller, mid-sized customers, and we move fast with those customers. And then we have probably 10%, which are enterprise level customers. So I actually had to learn to like adjust my thinking to work with these smaller customers, and how do you make sure that you give them a great high touch experience that's not going to be costly, right? So after I figured that out, all looking at data, by the way, data actually had to tell me how to think there. And then we made this acquisition in March, which was actually super exciting because now we're a full talent experience platform. But in acquiring that company and the customers, they're more the enterprise level customers. So now we're going through exactly right now, how do we look at our segmentation differently? Do we look at it differently? How do all the swim lanes change from the time you acquire the customer to the implementation to the handoff to CS? All of that's being worked through right now. And I do think the biggest challenge for this acquisition is that different type of customer, going from a high velocity, high transactional model to a slower velocity, longer implementation, and making sure those handoffs are right. So now we're combining, right, those two models of customers. And it's been challenging in trying to make sure we address all those handoffs. Uh, to me, role clarity, goal clarity, making sure everybody understands the swim lanes and when they're responsible is super important so we can scale faster in the future. Without that in place, understanding the segmentation, understanding the different customer profiles, understanding swim lanes, I think will look as a confusing mess to our customers. So putting a lot of work into, what you would, that type of model as we're launching out to our customers. And it's going to be really fascinating, the different type of support that we're going to provide to them. There's going to be this very fast level of support, and then there's going to be this slower, longer tail with the talent management customers. Yeah, but exciting to see what happens. I will tell you, we're right now, Chris, too, in that fear where the model's ready to go. We're ready to launch it January 1st, but everybody's now really afraid. Like, do we handle, all the potential challenges or all the gaps filled up? And this is what I say, let it go. We're going to learn. We're going to assess at the end of Q1, and we're going to come back and adjust because we're going to watch the data. And when I say watching data, we watch data on different, what would you call it, like lateral and horizontal, right? So we look at customer data, meaning cohorts, first year customers, second year customers, what type of products they have. We look at that type of cohorting, if that's a word. And then we also look at when customers engage with us. So we drive what's called advising sessions throughout the year to our customers based on their customer journey. So we'll be watching those advising sessions. Is there an uptick? Is there not an uptick? And we'll adjust like how we're reaching out to the customers and how the model looks. So all about clarity and data, and let's get it moving, and we'll learn as we move.
That's interesting. It's interesting that actually it's one of the things that I remember having this debate when I was at Salesforce, and everybody's saying we have to build for scale. When they're talking about build for scale, it's kind of what you're talking about, the sort of the processes and understanding like the impact. And I kept advocating, maybe similar to you, of like actually the one problem we don't have at Salesforce is scale, because we actually have, at that time it sounds crazy, but at that time it was 3,000 people. And I was like, actually, if we need scale, if it works, we've got the people to fill in behind it. But what we don't have is actually it going out there, getting it to learn, like, how does it work? Kind of, you say there's a lot that has to map onto processes, and everybody's trying to intellectualize it. And sometimes it's like, or we just hit the button and get a good team around it and just really hope we can swarm and solve and plug it in and figure it out. It's interesting that that was the approach you were
Yeah, so I
advocating for.
think there's like that first stage where it's really a bit about hustle and heroics, right? And then you got to get the data in place and then making decisions based on the data, and that's going to help us scale. Is kind of in my head.
Totally.
I love it. Yeah, well, there was something out there today about actually OpenAI, talk about scale, but about their whole kind of philosophy, or Sam Altman's, and it's much more towards that. It's much more just like, let's just get stuff out there, learn and iterate. Those are my words. He had more of a 5-step process, but yeah, I love it. It's interesting.
Yeah, because we won't know until we know. You don't know until right? You got to get it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had this similar, and that was one of the things that Boomi, my company was acquired by Boomi, and as a workflow company, I think we hadn't realized just how different, effectively, the products were in terms of the sales motion, because Boomi had been used to selling into sort of enterprise accounts and integration. All of a sudden, realized, oh, we're actually selling to a slightly different persona. They're adjacent, but they're slightly different. And the way you do solutioning and discovery is maybe more in depth for a workflow, which is a little closer to the human business process than an integration. And that caused a lot of, it just took us a while to kind of get there in terms of how do you rally around that as success, but also as sales. Yeah.
I'm with you. And I think it's a whole, for me, it was a mindset shift because I was so used to a slower sales process, very much calculating along the way. And when I came to Energage, it was very, very fast, very, high velocity. There's really no implementations with our legacy products. And so adjusting to that, right? Test and learn all the way.
So when I was actually going to ask what how you think about the AI, because if you're going to scale, that feels like when AI starts to become more important, and in success, it's felt that sometimes people are a little hesitant because so much of success is actually the whole point is the customer touch point. I mean, I've spoken about this, that as a product leader, success is super important as the voice and advocate for priorities around the customer. But then so you kind of don't want success to overly scale because they're kind of your eyes and ears on the ground of how customers are actually doing out there. But I mean, how are you thinking about that now that you're in this sort of scaled operations at Energage? I mean, are you applying AI, or how do you think about that?
We are using AI in our support function. So I do all post customer or post sale customer activities. So that includes support. So we are using AI in our support team today. It's called a co-pilot. The co-pilot sits along with our agent, and when the agent gets a ticket in, the co-pilot's saying, "This came up before. Here's the response." And so what it's doing, it's reducing the time, right, per case. It's not reducing the number of cases, it's reducing the time per case, right? We wanted to test this out first. Assuming the Copilot continues to give us what we wanted to give us, then we want to expand it out to maybe an automated response to customers. But again, for me, it's all about let's test it, let's collect the data, and then we'll figure out what the right thing to do. That's on the support side of the house. For the customer success side of the house, we have not implemented AI tools yet, but I see two things for AI and customer success. One is efficiency gains. I think the CSM that uses AI is going to perform better than a CSM who doesn't use AI. I think it's going to be a helpful tool in reducing efficiency, knowing when to connect with a customer and when not to. And to me, that's efficiency. And if I could see an AI tool get to the point where it identifies the patterns for when a certain segment of customer is ripe for expansion and then serves that up to my CSM, that's what I would love to see. Because right now we look at the data and okay, I got 3 data correlations that tell me when customers are ready for expansions. But if I could have something even smarter, like going across and down, the data to tee up for us where expansions are, that would be super, super amazing for us. And on the support side of the house, for anybody that's listening, I'd love something called anticipatory support. So when the customer's on the platform, it already knows what the third question is going to be down the road, and it guides the customer all the way through that type of experience. So whoever's building that out there for me.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of something we talk a lot about. Is like, how do you think about like, okay, that's the data point, or maybe another way, that's a signal. But what do we now do? Like, what is that telling me to do, as opposed to just like filling in the data because we need the data? It's like, no, what is that telling you to do anything else? Like, what's the next action, if any?
Right.
So it's just,
Yes. Yes. And again, I always get the AI and automation kind of intermingled, like a lot of people do. And for I wanted to tell me where to find efficiencies and expansions. I can automate the simple tasks that our CSMs do today. I mean, if I do that, I'm not going to get the learnings I have today, but I can automate some of those simple tasks. But I need AI to tell me where the expansion opportunities are as it recognizes how our customers are using the platform and how the data is driving that. Even down to, oh, this would be so great. So we are all about employee experience and talent management, and we have decades of data that tell us what a top workplace is. So imagine a time when my AI friend says you have about 300 customers that can improve their appreciation scores within their company. Let me just automatically reach out to them and tell them how they can do that with your services and your platform.
Interesting.
that's cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Can you go build that too?
But I think would you call it well, hold on, I gotta say you called it anticipatory
Support.
support. And so would this be anticipatory, I don't know.
Expansion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it would be. It's
Yeah.
like they have A plus B, and then they need C and D to get to E or something like that. It would be. Yeah, that's
That
interesting.
should be in marketing. There we go. I've just proven my value right
There
there.
you go. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, well, here I would love your thoughts. So I've got this growing perspective. I've never ever liked the fact that a function is called customer success. And part of it was because when I first started learning about it, I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, and I don't like it when CEOs stay on stage and go, everybody's job is success. I get yes, it is, but we also know that can be a little bit of a platitude, and how do you live it? But all that said, I do appreciate the perspective that it is kind of like, isn't that kind of the goal of a company, to make a customer successful? So calling a function that, I felt, is almost a bit of an unfair tether around, the waste of that function. And then now I think is success, as you've seen, I'm not talking about Energage at all, but I'm talking about just broader metrics that we're all now staring at. Churn is going up, expansion is harder. There's new tools every day, i.e., what Steve and I are trying to build. So there's a lot of there's new competitive forces for most of us out there in the world every day now, and success seems to be very much a little bit in the crosshairs. And I think part of it is candidly a little bit because of the platitude. It's like, well, everybody, can do success. So we'll move this over here and that over there. And I always, so I would love your thought, because I think the function is ripe for a rebranding. Because what I always wonder when I hear, oh, well, this company just or is moving half of their success team over here. It's like, well, wait a minute. But if you define every function by the 10 things they do, which all functions have something like that, those 10 things didn't go away. You still got to do those 10 things to make sure your customer's successful, get that renewal, get that expansion. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that and kind of where the function's heading.
I would say first, in a snarky way, if customer success was easy to do, all of my CSMs would be performing well. And not all my CSMs are performing well. I got my top performers who are great at driving expansion and one-time upsells, and I got those that aren't. So not everybody can do customer success. And I still feel that the core of customer success is adoption first. Adoption, and then you have to develop that discovery with your customer, build that trusted relationship so you can have the expansion and the renewal. But that aside, where do I think it's going? I still fully believe that that term customer success is a great customer experience plus great customer outcomes, and that equals customer success. And that is throughout the company, Chris, right? If the product doesn't have a great experience, it's not going to be a great experience for the customer. If it's tedious to use, the customer's going to get tired of using it and move on. If they're not retaining employees, if they're not growing their top line with their customer success platform, that's not hitting their outcomes. So I do feel like customer success is throughout the company. That one I have to agree on. But I don't know what you call the team that makes sure the customer is adopting it and hitting their outcomes and growing that revenue. I don't know what else we would call them. It's definitely not account management. I really feel like account management is a very top level, revenue focused role, 100% needed, but we need the people who are invested in their customers' outcomes in that adoption. I don't know how else we would name them. I would love to come up with something and make sure me and you trademark it.
All right. Well, yeah,
and go out with it.
I think it should be customer engineering. And I know that there's some conflation there at times with like a true engineering function, but I look at it particularly, and this will take time to evolve, but obviously it's one of the things that we being noted are trying to push is the evolution of like really being able to deploy true agents that do work on your behalf, but across that customer journey. And I think success has always been in the catbird seat of really like, I genuinely believe they have the best understanding of the customer, period, full stop, holistically. And with the right tool sets in place that will continue to grow over the next, few years, I think they have a real opportunity to rebrand themselves, soup to nuts, to be that person that's to some degree, it's about of this, what do we just call, what's the term we just branded?
You said customer engineering. Is that what you're talking
Well,
about?
no, but yours for support, and then the one we wanted to do.
Anticipatory support. Anticipatory
So maybe
expansion.
anticipatory engineering, but it's almost like making sure the customer's got the right, thing at the right time and really driving that, whether it's something they need from support or from product or from marketing, but really overseeing that journey and being able to get engaged at the right moment. That's my kind of personal perspective.
I love it. And I'll push back on the customer engineer term because if I was a customer and I'm going to call my customer engineer, something's missing there, right? So but you were just saying, helping them through the whole journey. So am I a customer journey master?
Maybe, maybe. Yeah.
Let's trademark that.
There we go. All right. All right.
I'm a customer journey ninja.
There you go. That's way cooler.
Yeah, that's very
Very
cool.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
I don't know if that
well,
will take off, Chris.
yeah, I don't know. Well, again, like we'll get someone from marketing involved. Um, little pivot here. Would love to hear you talk out loud about like, look, like I remember one of my first memories was just again, and one of the reasons that we wanted to have you as part of this is you're just like brutally authentic, and you bring your same self to work every day. And but I think that's also why people that I've always been around enjoyed and wanted to work with you and for you. And I think you equally really enjoy the mentoring aspect of you're very hands on, you know your craft, but you're also very much a you enjoy leading people and watching those people go off and do amazing things. So would love just to hear you talk a little bit about your perspective on that as you've grown your career and people you've learned from.
Yeah, I'm still mentoring, whether they're in the company or I have some individuals I work with outside the company. But that actually is my greatest joy. Like if I was to label like who I am and as a business human being, as one is growing people is my favorite thing and watching them go off and do great things. Two is role goal clarity with data to drive you, right? And then it's customer success. Um, but mentoring gives me great joy because then I can see everybody else achieve what they've wanted to achieve. And I think about some of the early individuals that I've mentored and the positions that they're in today, and that just really does give me goosebumps. I think about I started working with Ed Makoski, right, in his mid to late 20s, and he is just an amazing individual. I think he's grown not only with his technical chops, but his leadership skill set. Super excited to always see him doing as well as he's doing. But there's just something there for me about giving back, and that for me is my best way to give back to the world. I am definitely, I don't have creative ideas for developing blankets for people that have cancer or helping people, with their trees. But I can give back to helping grow the next level of leadership. And that's what makes me feel like a human being. I don't know if I answered that question, Chris. It's kind of embarrassing too to say it.
No, it's awesome. There's no right answer. I love it. I absolutely love it. Although we'll edit all the stuff
Yeah,
about it.
take out Ed's name.
We'll add, yeah, we're gonna edit all of that out, 100%.
Take out Ed.
Um,
Steve, did you work with Ed?
I did actually. I hired Ed back into Boomi.
Oh,
Uh,
stop. Really? I didn't
yeah,
know that
yeah,
dynamic.
yeah. So yeah, I brought Ed in as to help run product, and then he ended up taking it over. So I had engineering and product owning for a little bit, and then had both him and this guy Rajesh, who are phenomenal as a team. In fact, they were called was it called Rajed?
Rajesh, yeah.
Rajed,
Good.
because they were
Rajed,
so
yes,
right at
Rajed.
the
They had
hip
like
of the
they
work.
posed one year with the Step Brothers sweaters on. It was
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
So
Oh,
yes,
that's
they're doing
great.
well. Yeah.
Great. Thanks for asking about that, Chris. It is
No,
my
no,
favorite.
yeah. Well, Steve, anything else on your side?
Um, n- well, actually, one question we didn't actually ask you, I think, which is sort of maybe interesting, because you mentioned you have children. So you have a demanding career, you have a demanding job. How do you balance that? Because I mean, customer stuff tends to get in the way of a lot of personal
Oh,
life.
yeah.
How do you manage that?
Well, I would say there's no balancing. I think there's only juggling and prioritizing. 'Cause you can't say you're really great at both. It's hard. So it really is really great prioritization and organization, a great support network. My husband and I are 50-50 when it comes to parental duties, household duties. I'm very proud of both my men. They've grown up to be excellent academics as well as in the workforce. My oldest is a data engineer. My youngest is a data analyst pursuing his master's in data science and applied statistics, which sounds horrible to me, but he loves it. Um, so, and you know what? The great thing is, Steve, My kids don't remember a time where I didn't make it to a baseball game, basketball game, soccer game. Even if that meant I brought my dinner to Boomy, I heated it up before I left Boomy, and I brought it with me and I ate it while I sat on the stands. I just made sure I was highly organized and prioritized everything. Family always came first. Um,
Yeah,
Family always comes first. I'll just leave it at that.
no, that's awesome.
That's great. Um, that's great. All right, maybe last question. So this is back
Yeah.
to outside of work. We always ask this question: is there's something you're geeking out on, in this moment outside of work, just an interest, anything like that?
Geeking out on outside of work. Well, I'm a big fan of game nights, so I could geek out on some games for sure. I love finding new games that make everybody very competitive. The most current game I'm geeking out on is, I hope I say this right, Hughes and Cues. Yeah, take a look at it. It sounds
Okay.
like a really simple game, but when you have, 8 competitive people around the table, it becomes pretty vicious. So I'm going to say I'm geeking out on game nights right now. I get a lot of enjoyment over being competitive, not in a work environment, but with a good glass of maybe Tempranillo or something from the Umbria region over in Italy, like the Sagrantino wine grape. That's probably what I'm going to say I'm geeking out on. Game night. Again, another geeky thing,
Nice.
Steve.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Nice. Well, they'll actually put your wife Crystal is geeking out on. What was that game that she's learning about?
Mahjong, and I want to learn. I genuinely want to learn, but if Kimberly, I don't know if you've ever
mm,
it's not a game you dip your toe in. You're either doing it's an investment of
What's
time
it
to
called again?
actually mahjong to get good at. So yes, but I love game night. We were all together as a family last weekend, and we played a few games of Mexican Train, which is
oh,
fun and easy, quick. It's easy. You don't have to. Mahjong is not a. It's not for the faint of heart. I'll say that. So
it's called
anyway,
Mexican Train.
yep,
All right,
it's
I'm
a
gonna look
derivative off a Domino's game,
Okay, I'll have to
but
look it up.
it's easy. It's fun.
Uh,
Just enough
Surprisingly
strategy where you
small.
have to use your brain.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, actually,
Perfect.
sorry, I do have one more question. So, is there anything that we should be talking about that we're not talking about in success? Is there anything that you think, why are more people not talking about this? This feels very pertinent, very timely.
Hmm, good question. Um, and I think I already alluded to it, Steve. And I do think success now should be less about your dashboards and more about how you're using the data to be your customer success operating system.
Mhm.
Helping it identify where we got to focus, where we got to invest, where we got to divest. Um, I think there should be more around that. And I haven't dabbled out there recently in looking at CS operations, but I really hope they're evolving to that. Less about pulling together the data, but how do we use that to drive our future operation? I think that'd be super helpful. And one way we used it, Steve, which I actually am super proud of, is we identified customers that didn't need a lot of hand holding anymore. And we created what we call our digital CS team. So it's
Mhm.
not a one-on-one, highly scalable and cost effective, but we would never have developed that as part of our operating system if the data didn't take us there. Um, so I don't think that's groundbreaking, Steve, but
No,
I'd like
I
to see
think
more of that.
doesn't always need to be groundbreaking. Sometimes just common sense is the most groundbreaking thing.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Well, this
Um,
was fun.
good
yeah,
deal.
really
So if
enjoyed
you're
it.
sending me a bottle of wine, I do like Tempranillos. If you do find me a bottle with the Sagrantino grape, you can send that to me as well. Hint,
I'm taking
hint.
a note and noted as we speak. So
Yeah,
there you
good, good. Yeah,
go.
next best
Hint,
action.
hint.
Send one.
Yeah, you'd film.
I